Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Mr. Mother.
Today, it is technically still morning. We could call it top of the morning if you'd like. Top of the morning to you.
Let's not do that.
So, today we're learning about two similar rhetorical devices that help with style. They are Asyndeton and Polysyndeton. And I did look at those, and that's how you pronounce them. It's very awkward, I know. But that's okay, because we're going to move on now. So, Asyndeton. If you want to say it that way, people will not understand what you're saying. So, what is it? Well, let's take a look here. Asyndeton.
Asyndeton. That sounds really fancy.
It is very fancy. It's a fancy way of doing something grammatically incorrect on purpose as a stylistic device.
You know, that's exactly what I was doing.
As long as you know what you're doing, you can do that, yes.
That's why I didn't know my essays.
All the red marks.
Oh no, I knew because I hadn't taught you yet. Okay. This is when you leave out conjunctions when you're writing a list of items. You just don't use them.
All the time.
Wow.
Okay.
Does that mean you're not going to mark for fancy words?
It can be used. It can be used when you just have two things that you're talking about, where the second item is listed as a clarification of the first item. So you have two. I'll give you some examples, which will help you to understand it a little bit better.
Wait, Mr. Romero, is this like what they do in poetry? Because they do like grammatically incorrect things because they can?
Sort of. If you were making a list in a poem, yes, that could possibly work. They do it in non-fiction writing as well. It can give the impression that the list is not finished. Therefore, the reader might want to come up with some items on their own without you having to say, think of this on your own. Because this device will give the impression that the reader should think of it on their own because it's not finished. But probably most importantly with Asyndeton is that it gives the feeling of fast movement to your writing. Almost as if it was spontaneous. You didn't really plan the items in this list out. They just sort of came to you while you were writing. Sometimes that may be true, yes. That they just, that's how it is. But many people will think out what items they're putting in the list rather than just writing whatever pops in your head. Are we ready for some examples?
Yes.
All right, here we go. Almost.
Wait, no, didn't you do the thing where you just go through it and then it's...
Oh, thank you, yes.
I got you.
We'll put this up back here afterwards. So, Asyndeton, examples. So, this is an example. I will go back later after we stop filming. This is an example of something that shows fast movement and it's not dragged out. They sat under one roof, princes, dukes, barons, earls, kings. And anything else you might think of when you think of that list. Right? Just says it straight out. Normally we would have to put a conjunction there after between earls and
Wait,
kings.
why is there a comma after root? Is my question. Is that a part of the list?
No. They sat under one roof. Rather than using, say, a colon there or something like that, you just used a comma. Because remember, it doesn't necessarily have to be grammatically correct if you're doing this on purpose. Okay? But that's one of the cautions that we'll get to toward the end. Here's an example where the second part of the list is clarifying the first part of the list. It was a great prize, a reward for years of service. I've actually seen this a number of times on your papers. However, I chalked it up to grammatical error since I hadn't taught this to you yet.
So
But-
How do you know we didn't know
We're
before?
gonna write it off as Asyndeton.
Yes?
So instead of having a semicolon, you just put a comma.
Only if you're using this. I would, if it were me, I'd probably put a colon after Ruth.
Yeah, that's what I would have done.
But-
And also, it was a great prize. I don't know if that's right.
But, however, a reward for years of service is not a complete sentence. So therefore you wouldn't put a
Yeah.
semicolon there,
Oh, true.
okay?
True.
But you couldn't use a comma and a conjunction. It was a great prize, comma, and a reward for years of service, because that would imply two complete sentences, but it's not. So you can just use a comma rather than the conjunction,
Oh,
right?
okay.
So, Asyndeton, yes?
Why is that better than using the colon?
So it makes your writing feel much more fast moving, whereas a colon, people stop fully before they, look at the rest of it, right? Where this helps them just to go right through it. Notice, anybody remember what the Greek word AS stands for?
What? AS. As.
Yeah.
Awesome students. That's us.
No, not acronym. The Greek term I said, not acronym.
Oh. I don't know.
Anyway, it means without or lacking, okay? So now we'll get to Polysyndeton,
Polly?
right? Poly does mean multiple, yes.
Wow.
Yes, it is. Polysyndeton, kind of the opposite word of Asyndeton, and I'm mispronouncing this horribly now because I've said it too many times, so now I can't remember it, yeah. So in Polysyndeton, you use a conjunction to separate every item in the list. Every single one, conjunction, 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 conjunction. It is kind of the exact opposite. It is similar in that it creates a sense of quickness, although in this case it will create more of a sense of urgency and even power, because you're emphasizing every single item in the list.
I see what you did there.
Okay? Yeah, I didn't use conjunctions though, but I paused for emphasis, right? So by doing that, it's showing the power that each of these individual words has. It can almost create a hypnotic rhythm.
Polysyndeton?
Syndeton.
Do you create these slides by yourself?
I do create them by myself, yes. I get the information from a book, and then I put them into a slide on my
Do you
own.
like practice this like the night before?
No, I don't.
Good
I
job,
don't.
Vero. I
It's
want
just
you to know I really like
right
these
now.
slides, and you did a really good job, and I appreciate them, so thank you for your service.
Thanks, Kylie.
I know how much I appreciate you.
Thank you for your
I
service.
don't want anything, I just want to be nice. I'm giving you confidence. Because
Thanks.
you guys are all mean to them. Thank you.
Tyler, you have a question? Quiet, please. You have a question.
If poorly used, could it create a sense of like immaturity? Because like little kids say and.
Kind of, sometimes, yes. Yes. It actually gives each item in the list an immediate force for the reader because it's sort of separating each item out, thus making them have more of an impact. The conjunctions sort of become punctuated beats, as if you were moving along, right? And one, and two, and three, and, right? Okay. I used the conjunction that time. Yes, I am. This is actually often used in religious texts because it's trying to provide emphasis for each word that's important. So it's often used in religious texts. So we'll have some examples now.
Wait, hold on, you're going very fast.
Yeah, I know. I'll come back to it. Don't worry. Oh, I will.
He's going through it, and then.
So here's some examples. Oh, I forgot to put the cool animations on these ones. Anyway, you have them both at the same time.
It's okay.
The runner passed the 10-mile mark and the 15 and the 20, and the finish line loomed in front of him.
Sounds like me.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's, right? Now you'll notice in the second example, we actually have no commas whatsoever. That is an option for you if you're using these rhetorical devices. The banquet table was a riot of beef and pork and lamb and fish and fresh vegetables and candied fruits and all sorts of wonderful dainties.
I thought we were supposed to not do that, like where you repeat the same.
Typically, you're not supposed to do that, yes. However, if you are doing it on purpose as part of a rhetorical strategy for your essay, because you want to emphasize every single item in a list that you're giving, then you can use it. But if you don't know that you're using it and you just randomly throw it in there, and it doesn't really make sense why it's in there, then it's grammatically wrong. Okay. It goes back to the whole thing that I actually learned this when I was in college, that it's okay to break the grammar rules as long as you're doing it on purpose for a stylistic reason. Yes. Yeah.
Is that applied to life too?
No. No, you should always follow the rules in life. Yes.
Or you can break them.
However, that being said, if your essay is void of any punctuation, capitalization whatsoever, we're going to kind of think that maybe you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Right?
Garlic is not.
For example, the poet E.E. Cummings never used capitalization. Even in his own name, it's lowercase e, lowercase e, lowercase c. Right? That was just him and his style that he had. Good.
What if they call me the next E.E. Cummings?
Then when you, if that's what you're developing, I would suggest not doing it on your college papers. And when you're writing your own poetry and stuff like that, you can do it all you want. Okay? All right. Some uses and cautions here. With Asyndeton, it helps the list itself feel less contrived and more familiar. So it's not as formal of a use if you're using Asyndeton. Polysyndeton can build climax and create a feeling of force and immediacy, as you saw in the runner one, right? You could almost see the runner's progression through the various stages of the race until the finish line at the climactic point of the race. However, some cautions, right? Don't use them too much, because then they just look like grammatical errors. You do, however, want to use them when you need a list to jump off the page at the reader. And part of the reason it jumps off the page is that because it is grammatically incorrect, so it draws the reader's attention to that particular list. Right? And so it makes the reader focus more on that, whatever the points in your list are that you're making. Questions? Awesome. That's the last slide.